Hello, everybody, and welcome back to my playthrough, my deep dive playthrough into the game Lords and Villains. Where we left off in the first video, we had set up our farming family, our foraging family, and our fishing family, and we were just about to move on to setting up our royal family. In this game, they use the word demesne. I've never seen that word outside this game. I think I looked it up, and it just means like the Royals or something like that. Um, but anyway, actually, an interesting little thing about etymology. This game, Lords and Villains. Villains is spelled like Villeins. Apparently, that's a villain is like an old school word to like refer to like peasants, and the word that we use today, villain, to mean like a bad person, comes from the same root word because nobody likes poor people, I guess. Yeah. Anyway, I like etymology. I thought that was a little funny. Sorry, that's a bit of a digression. So I just wanted to address something that I said last in the last video. I was talking about how the soil management in the early game for farms, how we don't want to grow too much of these like grain plants because we'll flood our economy with a bunch of grain that we just don't need because we can't make use of it until we get a baker to turn that grain into bread. I should have mentioned also that the butchers need grain. You can see here in the third column, it says consumes meat and grain. So it's not just the bakers that will be consuming grain. I just wanted to address that. I mean, actually paying attention to what each zone consumes and produces is really important because a lot of these are will become part of a production chain. So for example, like if you look at the furnace here, you could see it consumes iron ore, coal, copper ore, silver ore, gold ore. And it produces all these ingots. But when we get to the point where we start inviting people to come live in our little society here, we, for example, and you can see the furnace required profession is smelting. We wouldn't want to invite any smelters into our society until we had people producing the things that they consume, all of these different ores. And you can see here the mining profession. These are the families that will be producing those ores. So there'd be no point in inviting a smelting family into our town until we already have a mining family up and running and producing these things. And some of these can be a little misleading. Like if you like for example, look here. Like you could see the butchery consumes meat, but also produces meat. But what it doesn't tell you is that in order to produce the meat that it will later consume, you need to have dead animals to give it, and those can come from animal farms or from hunting families. So it's some of this stuff like I had to figure out through like trial and error or like the Steam discussion boards. I'll try to walk you through everything that I can. We're probably not going to get to all of these families in one playthrough because it's kind of hard to support that many people, but we will see where the game takes us. So anyway, with all of that out of the way, let's get back into it. So I'm going to go ahead and one other thing I wanted to address that I should have addressed last in the last video is some of the hotkeys that I'm using here to sort of like navigate this interface. So in the very top left corner of your keyboard underneath the escape key is what's called the grave key. It's to the left of the number 1 and above the left tab. That toggles zone visibility on and off. And if you want to like look at this, like, oh, like this is an apple tree and it's 100% grown and it's in perfect soil. All that stuff's good. You can't click on it when you're in the zone, when you have the zone view toggled on, even if it's outside of a zone. Like I can't click on any of these trees over here right now to get like details on them. But if I toggle the zone visibility off, then I can click on them and see like, oh, this is a spruce. That's the grave key. You can also press this button down here to switch zone visibility on and off. So you don't need to use the hotkeys, but I find that it's a little faster. Another one that's important is V turns the roof visibility on and off, and there's also a button for it down here, switch roof visibility. I actually wish that there was a hotkey for all of these different options. I think there's only one for roof visibility and zone visibility. And we should just go over these actually while we're looking at them. So this is temperature. You don't super need to worry about this in the spring, summer, and autumn seasons, but when it comes to winter, everything's going to be cold, and you really just remedy that with these campfires here, which it seems like. Oh yeah, they've built a few campfires over here. We'll actually need to give a camp. Let's actually do that right now. We'll need to give a campfire to here it is, to our fishing family down here. Let's give them a campfire, and let's give them some chairs to sit around the fire. One chair, two chair. There's only two of them. Yeah, that'll be good for them. Okay, so that's temperature. Oh, we looked at soil quality last time when we were talking about farming a little bit. Beauty values. You can see the forests are like gorgeous. Obviously, the mountains are ugly. I don't know why, because I think mountains are pretty, but whatever. The beauty values really only matter for your noble family, and if you ever end up inviting any nobles, like you can see there's other noble families that like presumably live in like nearby areas like this with their own villains that they manage and stuff. When we set this game up, we turned off the royal taxes for this run through, so we don't really need to worry about the other nobles at all during this run through, but they're there, and maybe in a future run through when we play with some of these more difficult settings turned on, we can talk about how you have to like sort of interact with them. Mostly it's just you have to keep sending them money, or they'll nerf your like reputation with the royalty, and that'll cause you a bunch of problems, but we don't have to worry about any of that stuff right now. But all that said, beauty values, you don't really have to worry about those too much unless you're really going for the noble play. Underground resources is interesting. It really only matters with mining, and we'll get there if we ever set up a mining family. So blueprint visibility is fun. You can turn it off. Like we have like all these construction orders set over here. And so it sort of like shows us where they're going to be built. If you turn it off, you just won't see those. And it is kind of fun sometimes if you get like a bunch of stuff set up to turn it off and then like put the speed on fast and like watch them like, yeah, build everything out. Like you can see, oh, look at that. He just built a little wall up there. I don't know. I think it's cool, but I just leave it on most of the time because it's useful to have. And then this, I guess you could just hide the entire UI, and then you could press the escape key to make it reappear. And it says right here when you mouse over, hide UI, press escape to make it reappear. This is presumably for like taking screenshots, or like let's say you're, I don't know, making a YouTube video and you want to just watch it run and look pretty for a little while. Look at them go. Look at them run around. Look at them go. Okay, sorry. That's almost 8 minutes into the video and we haven't done anything. Oh, the other hotkeys that I wanted to mention are the time keys. At night, it'll let you speed it up to 32 times. You can press the number 5 on your keyboard for that. 1, 2, 3, 4 toggles through the other times, and then spacebar is pause. So yeah, we can just and when the nighttime ends, it'll just default back down to the next highest speed. But let's go ahead and slow things down while we sort of plan out what we're going to do next. So we have everything set up over here for our 3 families. Let's start getting things set up for our royals. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this same basic house template for the house that my royals are going to live in. Now, this isn't good for the royals. We will improve this house later, but just for now, we're going to give them the same sort of basic house everybody else gets. So we're going to go ahead and stick that right there. Now, we actually need to build 3 different houses for the royal family. So let's go ahead and just sort of pop these down, and I'll tell you why we need to do that as we go along. So first things first, the royals don't live in a household. The royals live in a manor. So let's go ahead and rezone this as a manor. So now that's where our royal family will live. They'll live in this manor. The other thing I want to do is in the manor, like you can see, so when I set up the template for this, I set it up as a house with all these like different, the stuff that like, that goes in a normal house. The royals don't actually need all that, so I'm going to come down here and go to erase blueprints and just get rid of this like backline of like stuff back there. And I actually messed up a little bit here. So we didn't talk about roofs. When I built this house in the in the first video. I didn't put a roof on it. Let's go ahead and do that right now. You can come down to roofs. We're going to use a thatched roof. It costs 1 straw, and we're just going to drag it across the top. So they'll build a roof for themselves. The templates that I had set up that I was using for my other houses already had roofs built in. So you can see they built a roof on this house, and they haven't built their roof yet, but they haven't built their whole house yet. So what happened over here when I just deleted all that stuff, well, when I erased those blueprints, I also erased the roofing blueprint. So I'm going to go ahead and replace that. What I forgot to do is when you come down here to erase blueprints, you can click this button, Filter Roofs, and it will stop applying what you're doing to roofs. So I can do this again to this back line of stuff back here, and you can see that time it didn't delete the roofing blueprints. And I'm going to go ahead and do this one more time over here. So now we just have like 3 super basic houses set up. I'm actually going to erase. I have these what are these called? The ground depositories set up for this house template. You could see. You can see over here, right, they built all these ground depositories. They're actually using these ones. I have them set up because, like, especially after a while, families will kind of just start to, like, accumulate resources. If you're, I don't want to say doing it right, but if you're, if they're producing enough, like more than they sell and more than they consume and more than they're taxed, they'll just start stockpiling resources. And it kind of gets annoying over time when you can see, like, this is like a trash. They actually don't have any. They'll start like building up like trash piles over time, and then you'll get these notifications over here that are like, oh, too many trash piles, and it's annoying. So I just kind of give them like probably more than they'll need of like ground depository space, and it gives them a little time, so I don't have to worry about it for a few years at least. But eventually, like when your civilization gets big enough, you will kind of sometimes just like notice trash piles building up, and just all you got to do is like be like, oh, that's in that household, it's. Like you eventually kind of will start remembering like what produces what, but like barrels, they hold like blueberries and grapes and all this stuff. So if you like see a trash pile and you click on it and it's like, oh, it's blueberries, then you just build them another barrel and they'll be fine. But we don't got to worry about that right now. Sorry, I'm going off on a tangent. Back over here. So the nobles live in a manor. Now, remember, we have our laborers here too. Now, they're not living in any of these households. They're definitely not living in the manor with the nobles. The nobles ain't going to sleep in the same room as the laborers. That's ridiculous. No. The laborers get their own cottage. So let's go ahead and rezone this as a cottage. And if you remember in the first video, when we started the game, we actually had 2 day guards. Now, I reassigned them to be laborers so I could have a bigger labor force because we don't need to worry about crime this early in the game. We will eventually need to get more guards. But for now, I'm going to leave them as laborers. But when we do have guards or any sort of like military units, like recruits, jailers, and soldiers, they're going to need a place to sleep as well, and they're going to be sleeping in the barracks. So let's rezone this as a barracks. So what we have set up here now is basically sleeping space for our royal family and their like household servants. Yeah, and their household servants. And they're going to go ahead and build all that stuff over time. Like, and this is in the first video when I stopped selling my straw into the local market. I was saving it so that they could build their own stuff over here. The last thing that we're going to want to build for our royal family is a kitchen. So actually, let's talk about food real quick in this game. So if we go down here to the tutorial book and we go to cooking, you could see that there's 4 kinds of meals: simple, normal, good, and excellent meals. Simple meals are any one ingredient category, so vegetables, fruits, meat, grains, animal products, and made products are all different ingredient categories. So like cabbage on its own is a simple meal, right? Normal meal is any 2 ingredients. So like any vegetable and fruit, any vegetable and meat, any vegetable and grains, fruit and meat, so on and so forth, and so on and so forth down the list. You can look at this and sort of figure out for yourself how it works. But so the peasants, the villeins, they really only need and only care about eating simple Well, they want normal meals, but anybody will eat simple. Anybody will eat meals on a lower tier of what they want. But to keep them happy, you want to give them their tier. So villains only really care about normal meals. So they only need 2 food types. And this is actually why it's important to have the fishing family early in the game, because they're providing meat, right? They're providing a resource in the meat category out into the economy so that people can start combining it with other things to make normal meals. Now, your royal family, they aren't going to be happy unless they're eating like good or excellent meals. So you can see when you start the game, it actually gives you quite a lot of food to start with. And this usually gets you through about the first year before you have to start relying on your economy to like make food. But back to what we need to build, the kitchen. The kitchen is where food will be produced not just for your royal family, but for all of their servants, all of your laborers, anybody in your like guards, your military, your jailers, anybody that you have in jail. Once we build a jail, they will be fed from the kitchens as well. So it's really important to get your kitchen up and running before you run out of this stock of food that you have when you're starting the game. I actually already have a template set up for the kitchen. So I'm just going to go ahead and use that. I'll sort of show you what's going on in it so that when you go to build your own kitchen, you can see what's up there. Where are we going to put this? Let's just stick this right here. Actually, do I want to put it on this side? Doesn't matter. I'm going to stick it over here. So in the kitchen, you can see I have 4 cooking tables set up. I have 4 cauldrons. I have 4 wooden blocks. And just like some shelves and some barrels and some like ground storage and some wells. Now, and again, I kind of want to get back to cooking a little bit real quick here. So the way that food is produced most of the time is they're going to need water from a well. They're going to need a cauldron so that they can boil that water, and a wooden block so that they can like chop food and, a wooden block so that they can, okay, let's take a look at this here real quick. So you can see a cauldron. It costs 1 stone to build, but you can see all these things that it does. So like you can see in the 1, 2, 3, 4, like sort of 5th section down, it takes 1 water casket and 1 firewood to make 1 cooked water, right? And you can see that we get water caskets from the well. So to make basically anything, you're probably going to need firewood and a water casket. Now, water casket just comes straight from the well. We don't need raw production. See, raw production water casket. We don't need anything to get our water casket. But firewood comes from the wooden blocks. You can see here so recipes: copper, melted bronze, clay, and then wood turns into 10 firewood. So in order to get like hot water, in order to get cooked water, you need to have a well and a wooden block and a cauldron, right? And then at the cooking table, you can see here, so like 1 flour and 1 water casket makes 1 dough. You can ignore that for now because that's more of a, you'll see that like these things sort of like the cooking table can be used in many different zones for different things. But you can see like, it's like, okay, so 1 cooked ingredient, goes to 3 excellent meals. I think that actually, I've never quite looked at this before, but I think that this is probably a little bit misleading too, because you can see 1 cooked ingredients either gives you excellent meals, good meals, normal meals, or simple meals. I assume that how it actually works is a little more complicated than that because you need different ingredient types to make that happen. I don't think that this sort of recipe display here is giving you everything that's going on. But suffice it to say, in order to make meals, you need a well, you need a wooden block, a cauldron, and a cooking table. So you can see over here in the kitchens, we have all of these things, right? We have the cooking table, the well, the wooden block, and the cauldron. And you could see in our houses too, we have all of these for each house: cooking table, well, cauldron, wooden block, right? And the well didn't pop up like the other ones, but you can see down here it says well. So now we sort of have our demesne, our royalty area sort of set up. There's one more thing I want to do, and so I also built a template for this. So you can see over here that when you start the game, you get this warehouse. And I've never liked it because it's like, it's just so poorly organized. Like, there's no walls, there's no roof. Like, this stuff is just like sitting around out here for anybody to come and see. No, no, no. So what I did was I made myself this template, this warehouse right here. And let's just go ahead and stick this right there. Boom. And it's pretty big. It's a pretty big warehouse, I know. But basically what I did was it's just a big square, right? These are just walls. And then a bunch of different like ground depositories, shelves, or like bookcases, shelves, all of the different possible, like here's a bunch of chests, all the different possible storage types are in here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to wait till they start like getting this built up, and that's probably going to take a while because they have a lot of construction orders over here, and it's probably going to take them it's probably going to take them until, I don't know, it's like maybe half a season to another full season to like really get this stuff like done. But when this new warehouse is done, what I'm going to do is I'm going to have them demolish all this stuff. I'm going to erase this zone, and then we're going to start using this space as like, and in fact, we'll get started on that right now. But we're going to start using this space as like public areas. And I know, honestly, I'm being lazy. I already have like a lot of this stuff like templated out, so I can just do it. But I'm gonna start doing everything by hand just so we can, because I feel like I'm probably going too quickly for like a deep like playthrough if I'm just like using templates for everything. So I hope that this stuff makes sense over here. But from now on, yeah, I'll start doing it by hand. So let's go ahead and build a public area. Now, a public area is like sort of an area of shared resources. I'm not actually quite sure. It's one of those things that when you play through like the tutorial, through like the campaigns, you're always told to build one. And when you do build them, people do use them. I'm not quite sure like how important they are, but we're just gonna go ahead and just build them anyways. So what you usually want in a public area is you want some sort of like warmth. So let's pop some campfires in the corners there. You definitely want some wells. So the one thing I know about public areas is that if a family doesn't have a well on their own property, which all my families do, so they're fine, but they will come to the public area and they will get water from the public wells there. So let's go ahead and make sure that we have at least one well. Let's go ahead and give them 2 set up. And look at that. You can see like people are already coming in here and hanging out, even though there's literally nothing built in this public area. I want to give it a nice floor once we can, but most floors beyond just dirt paths require, you can see here, crude wood floor up in the top leftish area says requires carpenter. So we can't build that until we have a carpenter. Any of these like stone floors require architects. So we can't build those. The only thing we can build is a dirt path. So we're just going to go ahead and just cover that in a dirt path. And again, so anything that's not within like a household of like a family, my laborers will need to take care of it. So my laborers now need to take care of building all of this stuff over here, as well as setting up this public area. So it's going to take them quite a while to probably do all this stuff. I'm just going to start getting things set up, and they'll get to it when they get to it. In fact, I'm going to go ahead and pump up the speed over here to 8 times speed, so they can start moving, so they can start getting their hustle on. I'm also in this public area going to set up some tables. No. So you could see here, wooden table requires carpenter. So I placed this down, and you can kind of see how it's kind of got a blue hue to it. If you click on it, you can even see it says requires carpenter. We don't have a carpenter, so this is never going to get built until we have a carpenter. I'm actually going to wooden table 2x2. I'm going to replace this with just a regular wooden table. I'm just going to put 2 of them like that, and then we'll put some chairs there, leave a little space, chairs here, wooden table. Did I do this quite right? I think I actually want to, we'll do it up this way. I don't usually do this because like I don't like micromanaging all this stuff, but what I do like is symmetry. So we're going to make this symmetrical, and we can erase these blueprints here. Oh gosh, I hope I did that right. Okay. So let's do this again. Okay, so we're going to want benches, table, table, benches, space, benches, table, table. Whatever, it doesn't matter. I guess what I want to do is like that. And yeah, okay, yeah. No, this is gonna work. This is gonna work. Um, table. You can actually, if you're like selecting something, you can hold down the control button and then click, and it'll delete your blueprints. So let's do this. Yeah, just like that. Okay, so they're gonna build those tables, and then let's get these benches. We'll put the benches on. Oh, see, that's why. That's why I didn't want to do it like that. It's fine. We'll just move these back. And this is obviously probably, I mean, probably too much for right now. Like, let's see. Our entire population is 24. Oh, and I do want to talk about population for a minute anyways. But let's finish. See, this is why I should be using the templates, because now it's taken me forever to build this stuff. And I'm not talking about how to play the game. So I guess I'll go back to using the templates after? I guess I'll go back to using the templates after. But for now, let's just build this stuff up. See this dead air? This is not what you want in a YouTube video. You just got to keep on talking, my dude. And that's what I'm doing. Even if you're talking about nothing whatsoever, you keep it rolling. Okay, so there's our public area. Pretty good and set up. I'm pretty happy with it. We're going to leave it like that for now. And I guess just to show you, whatever, we can have two public areas. This is the one that I sort of had set up before. And you can see it's a little smaller than this one. It's still got the two wells. This one only has 2 campfires. I guess this one has 4. But this one has a celebration bar. And we'll get to the celebration bar later, but for now we're just going to let our workers over here keep on keeping on. So this is an important milestone we've reached. So anytime you go from one season to another, it's tax payment day, which means remember how when we were setting up these zones, we tax them at 20%. So today is the day that they will, all our little citizens, well, not all of them, but like a couple of them from each family will come to our warehouse and they'll deposit their taxes. Oh, and this is what I was talking about earlier, these trash piles. Look at this. 9 clay, 34 wood. Now, let's talk about the trash pile real quick. So we can see that if we go to storage here, ground depository, if we look at all this like big list of stuff that it can store, this is clay and wood rods, actually. Wood rod is on this list, as is clay. So a ground depository can store both of these things. And we have ground depositories here that aren't full. So I think what it is a ground depository can only hold one kind of item, though. So we need to build a couple more. Look at that. We got rice grain, clay, wood, fish, and we don't have any barrels. So, okay. Let's take care of this real quick. Actually, can we just up the priority over here? So like, here's a small barrel. Let's up that priority for the fish. And then here's the ground depositories. I think the grain needs to be in a silo. Yeah, it does. So let's build a couple silos in here. I think I forgot to add silos to the template when I first built it. But so that, as long as could we up the priority for these? Yeah. Priority for one of these silos. That should about cover our trash piles over here. Look at all that stuff. Yeah, hopefully our builders will build this stuff real quick. Now, the problem is these trash piles might sit there for a little while because our laborers have so many build orders that these things, like literally picking these up and moving them to a storage unit, might get deprioritized, like buried underneath all these build orders. And so so you can see we prioritize these, so they're building them first. That's good. So we'll actually see if they bother to do that. if they bother to move these things over before they build all this stuff, or if not, I'm kind of suspecting that they won't. So these trash piles might just sit there for a while, and we might even get notifications over here that say like too many trash piles, but we can just ignore that. Luckily, I don't think there's any consequences to leaving the trash piles. But anyway, back to what we were doing. So what we're doing is we're building like public areas. There's a few others that we need. Two more public areas that we need, or rather two more important areas that we need before I would say that like our society is like set up and ready to go. And keep in mind, like, we are not really set up and ready to go. Like, we have almost none of this stuff built over here. I mean, I guess honestly the kitchens are basically done. They just need their cauldrons completed. Let's maybe prioritize those. All we just really need is one. But like, yeah, if we're turning off the blueprint visibility, like we can see like none of this stuff is really built up, but we do have actually probably everything that we need. We have the beds for the people to sleep in. Yeah, there we go. We finally have a cauldron. So we're actually looking pretty good. All of our families are definitely set up and producing what they need to be producing. So we might actually be good. What I want to do is, I think why I'm hesitating is because moving on to the next like portion of the game is when we build the inn, because when we build the inn is when we're going to start being able to invite new families into our little community here. And when we start inviting these new families, we're going to need to build them houses, and we're going to need to build them like their zones that they can work in. And I kind of wanted to sort of get everything like set up and running before we started expanding, basically, right? I sort of wanted to get everything that you start with set up and running before expanding, right? So everything that you start with is the farmers, the foragers, the fishers, and the laborers, and the royal family. I wanted them all good to go, and then we start expanding. So I think we're actually probably at that point. And we're only about 30 minutes into this video, so why don't we go ahead and get that started? So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to build the first thing I want to do is I want to build a market. I'm just going to go ahead and start using templates again so I don't take up a bunch of this video like clicking around building things. We want to build a marketplace. Now, what a marketplace is it's not really strictly necessary for us right now because all of our families have their own storefront, but a marketplace is literally just a bunch of storefronts that any family that doesn't have one can come in and like stand at it for the day. And they'll be able to like sell their goods and buy from, anybody who needs to buy their stuff can come and get it. So it's kind of important to have if you're not like being super careful about making sure that every single family gets a storefront. And it's honestly, it's good to just throw down because when you start expanding, it's easy to like forget little things here and there. And if you forget to throw a storefront in one of their zones, this will just be here for them to like be able to utilize. The next thing that we want to build is a caravan marketplace. Now, a caravan marketplace is important because it's going to start bringing caravans from out of town into your like your society here, into your land, and the people who like come in with the caravans will sell stuff into your economy. Now, you do need to be careful with the caravan marketplace. I think that the game developer has fixed this, but in earlier versions of the game, it was really easy to like let your economy start leeching all of its money out into the caravans because people would just start buying whatever they needed from the caravans, spending all their money on it, and then they'd be completely broke and have no money to spend on anything else, buying from each other, let alone from the caravan, and it kind of like wrecked your whole economy. I think that that's been like patched out for the most part, but like some of the stuff that to sort of be careful of is like, for example, if you have a farm and you have like butter and cheese turned on and it's not an animal farm, I believe that the farmers will start buying stuff from the caravans to produce those things so that they can meet or they can at least try to meet their quotas. So you kind of want to like keep an eye whenever you're like adjusting priorities, that like if it's not something that like that zone is like explicitly built to produce, like that you've placed things in there to produce it, just turn it off, because otherwise they might try to buy stuff from the caravans and like a little bit of money will get leached out of your economy, and you just don't want that. Now the very next thing that we're going to build is going to be the inn, and this will be, I think, like the last like big, like the last thing that we build before I think we've moved on to like basically like stage 2 of the game, right? And again, stage 1 is where we're at now. We have, and just to sort of like summarize where we have a farm set up, the foragers set up, the fishing people set up. We have a public area set up, the marketplace, the caravan marketplace. We have the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 zones for our royal family and their servants. And again, normally you start out, well, you always start out with a warehouse over here. So like manor, cottage, barracks, kitchen, warehouse, 5 zones. I'm building my own warehouse over here because I'm crazy and I hate the starting warehouse. So like I always just build a separate one and then move everything over eventually. So really my royal family right now has 6 zones, but it will go down to 5 when we delete this warehouse. And then it'll go back up again when we start building other zones for them. And something to keep in mind too, this isn't really a big problem right now because we only have 3 families, but as your like list of families like grows, every once in a while it's smart to just come in here and just click through them and just make sure, like you can see like here the Rain Courts, they own a household and 2 farms. The St. Ovens, they own a household, 2 households, and a royal forest. And the fairies own 1 household and 1 fishing pool. Just like click through them and just like keep an eye on this like right here. And just make sure that like all your families own stuff. Because I've definitely been in a position where like a family pops up to like be invited in. And I'm like, oh yeah, I want them, but I'm working on something else. I'll set them up later. And then I completely forget about them. And they're just like sitting around for like a season, not owning anything, not producing anything, not getting themselves set up to produce anything. And it always hurts a little bit to realize like, oh, I dropped the ball on like, you know, getting them set up. So just you know, little things to keep in mind. But I think right now we're kind of at a point where we just kind of got to let it run. We're going to let it run at top speed. And just sort of start like letting them build everything. Oh, you know what? Well, we may as well place down the inn. So as before, I have like a template set up for the inn. I'll go over like what you need in there. I'm not going to take the time to, as you can see with how long it took me just to place down like a couple like tables and benches. This video is going to go on forever and ever and ever if I try to like literally like build everything right in front of you. So I'm just going to go ahead and use my largest inn tavern template right here, which I have prepared in other games. Oh, and I should mention these templates, when you save one from any like run through that you do, they're always available until you delete them. So this is just from like a different run through I've done. And now what we're looking at here, the reason I wanted to delete the marketplace is because if you like build something in the forest, it will take them absolutely forever to build it because they have to clear cut all of that land before they'll start building anything on it. So like even like trying to put it like here, like you could see it's cutting pretty deep into the forest. Like it's going to take them a while to clear cut that land. And also something to keep in mind, demolish orders always take precedence over build orders. So if I place this down right here, right now, it'll like all this forest will become like demolish ordered. It'll be like if I did this, like demolish structures, right? All of that stuff will become ordered to be demolished. I'm gonna cancel demolish structures right here. I was just doing that to illustrate. And then my laborers will come start doing all that, and they'll ignore all of the buildings that they're supposed to build over here, even though it looks like they've actually come along pretty darn well. In fact, this warehouse is built up well enough that I am going to demolish structures on this warehouse right here. I'm just going to go ahead and just burn all that down. And my laborers now will come over. They'll destroy all that stuff. And then hopefully, if they don't have any other priorities, they'll start moving all these trash piles over here into my other warehouse. Actually, what's going on here? Oh, that's a trash pile. That's clay. So, and again, like, there's clearly like open spots for that clay to go. You can even see here, like clay is an option for it. They're probably just leaving the trash piles there because they have other priorities, probably all of this construction stuff. But again, they're doing this first because demolish orders take precedence over construction orders. So you can see now that they've demolished all the structures over here, they're going back to building stuff over here. Apparently, it would seem all these build orders are taking precedence over the like organize my trash piles orders. And look at that. You can even see too many trash piles. Look at that. Traveling salesman. We have a caravan arrived. You can see here's Mr. Aldhelm Somneri from the caravan. He's a visitor. He's old and he's just wandering around. You can see here in the so when you build your caravan marketplace, all you really need is a caravan storage. The tier doesn't even change anything there. The caravan storage and a storefront. The amount of caravans that will come in are dependent on like A, your population, and B, how many open caravan storages and storefronts exist. And actually, let's talk about trade for a quick minute now that we have the caravans. Well, okay, hold on. Sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself. There's two things that we want to do. The first is we want to place down our inn. The reason that I'm hesitating to place down the inn is because I kind of wanted to place it like here, but as long as this warehouse stuff is still in the way, like if I place the okay, so here's what's gonna happen. Here I know what we're gonna do. We're gonna place our inn on the other side of the forest over here. Solve all the problems, right? This way, maybe like this. Put the inn there. So when you place your inn, one of these families is going to come and need to run this inn. Our laborers will they'll build it if we leave it unassigned. As with any zone, they will do the demolish commands and the build commands if we leave it unassigned, but they won't run it. We need to actually assign one of our families to run it. And I'm going to assign the Saint Ovens just because they're the biggest family, and we don't really need too many more planks and stuff like that right now. Like, we've built out most of our stuff, so they can afford to take a little hit. And they're going to use, once I assign it to them, they are going to use their resources to build this in. So it won't be coming out of my resources. So let's go ahead. The Saint Ovens, I'm going to give it to them for free. I think it would be okay to basically charge them for running it. Like, they make a bunch of money on the end and they give me a cut, but I'm gonna give it to them for free for now, just because I feel like every time I assign a family to the inn, they don't make nearly as much money as I think they will, and then if I try and tax them, they end up going broke. So I'm just gonna go ahead and I'm just gonna give it to them for free. We can reassess that down the line if we really want to. So look at this. So someone committed a crime, villagers are fighting. I think it's time to reassign one of my laborers to the day guard. Let's go ahead and reassign you. We're going to enlist you to the army. So actually, let me do this real quick. I'm just going to clear this out. So when you assign anybody to the army, and you can do this with almost anybody, like I could go into my farming family here. So I click on one of their zones, then I click on show family of owner. I could make anybody like my servant, enlist them to the army. I could imprison them, but I don't have a jail right now. But so when you enlist anyone to the army, what happens is they become a recruit, right? And if you want to recruit to be like a day guard, a night guard, or anything, what you want to do is you want to come over here and you want to say this is my limit, right? I want to raise my limit to 1 day guard. If you have any recruits, they'll just get auto assigned to the day guard. So if I raise it to 2, the next time I enlist somebody to my army, they'll automatically just go straight to day guard, because there's an open spot, right? So I'm going to go ahead and open up a spot for a night guard as well. And so the next 2 people that I enlist to the army will end up as day guards and night guards. I'm also going to do the same thing here with cooks. I was talking about how important it was to get the kitchen set up, and it is. We still have a lot of food left over. But what I'm going to do is, now that my laborers are kind of chilling, although I really do want them to take care of all these trash piles. I guess they're working on the roofs right now. I'm not going to assign a cook yet because we have plenty of food, and I really want them to take care of this stuff over here. And the more of them there are, the quicker they'll get around to doing it. But okay, so we have the inn set up, and the inn has beds now. So as long as the inn is zoned, it has a family working it, and it has beds, now we're at the point of the game where people will start visiting our town. They'll just show up at the inn. In fact, let's see if we have anybody here. Yeah, so look at this. This guy's a visitor. He's a farming profession, Christopher Dyer, and he's just chilling at the inn. And sometimes they will ask if they can stay in our town. And then we can either accept them or decline them. Now, the types of families, the types of professions that show up, are basically random, but we want to keep an eye out. We want to keep an eye out for carpenters, and we want to keep an eye out for tailors. They're pretty much the 2 most important early families that you want to get. Carpenters, because they can build the higher tier structures. And tailors, because they provide clothing. So like if people stay warm in the wintertime, if their clothes go bad, they can replace their clothing. And they also produce yarn, which opens up a production chain for us because, for example, the mining field, you can see here, it consumes rope. Now, it doesn't have to, but if you want to build a mine shaft to get like better like minerals, you need the rope. And the rope comes from the rope mill, which consumes the yarn to make the rope. The yarn comes from the tailor, right? There are other... like I said, like the fishing family, when these things break, they're going to need more yarn to fix them. So that, again, comes back to the tailor. There's a few others. The Builders Guild, if for advanced repair kits, you need rope, which comes from the rope mill, which needs yarn, which comes from the tailor. The brewery needs yarn. It actually doesn't say it here, but they do need yarn to build their trellises. So you need yarn for that. The Bower's Workshop, they obviously need yarn. Like, there are just so many random things that need yarn or rope. Same with the windmill. The windmill, it actually doesn't say it here, but it needs rope to build that windmill. Which you get from the rope mill, which consumes yarn, which comes from the tailor. So like, so many important things come from having a tailor. Like, you need to have this tailor. Now, that being said, in order to make yarn, you need wool, and in order to make wool, you need sheep. So we actually need to get another farming family to be like an animal farm family so that we can have sheep, so that we can have wool, so that when our tailor comes along, we can start getting all of those production chains set up. And this is what I was saying earlier when I was trying to describe, like, if you have a family coming in, like, it's really important to like really look at like what what they're going to need, because like sometimes this can be misleading. And let's take the let's take the windmill. I'll give you two examples. First, let's take the windmill. So if we have a family come in, and you can see here, profession milling. So we have a milling family come in, and we look at this and we say, oh, well, it consumes grain and it produces flour. Well, I know that I'm having grain produced, right? Because I can come over here, I can look at my accounting reports, and I can see that my farmers are producing grain. So I have grain in my economy, so I should be fine, right? If this is only consuming grain and producing flour, and I have grain, what's the issue here? And we can even remind ourselves that these different crops will produce different amounts of grain. So we could even up our grain production if we really wanted to like make use of this like windmill. But here's the problem. So let's say we accept a milling family, we build them a windmill zone, and we go to build a windmill, but it requires 2 rope to build this windmill. And this windmill is how our recipe turns 3 grain into 1 flour. So without rope, our milling family's completely useless, right? So we just accepted a family for nothing. Now you could kick them out, but like that sort of makes everybody else a little unhappy, so you don't want to do that. Another good example of that is the brewery. We look at the brewery and we say, okay, well, it consumes straw, plank, grain. Well, we have all those things in our economy. Consumes hops, but it also produces hops, so it's going to make its own hops, so that's fine. And firewood, that's easy to get. So we say, okay, well, we're pretty sure we can produce everything that it consumes, so we're going to be fine. So let's go ahead and build the brewery here. But we see here the trellises that produce the hops require yarn to build. Now, we do have a little bit of yarn we could give them, but we're not producing more yarn. And we know that our fishers are slowly consuming it. And further, trellises it only costs 1 yarn, so we could build 22. So we could build quite a few of them. But either way, like it's one of those things where like you like if you're not like quite sure about every like type, it's good to like build the zone and then like go over look at each thing that you're going to need to build in it and look at the costs. Like, for example, like this is like you need a weapons rack, and for that you need a steel rod. Well, we don't have any steel rods, so like we couldn't build that. We couldn't build a weapons rack at all. I mean, technically we have like 1 steel rod because you start the game with a weapons rack, and you can see we kind of like moved it over here. So like we could destroy that and like get 1 steel rod, or maybe 2. No, just 1 steel rod. But like that's beside the point. The point is we can't support Bower's Workshop, right? And there's a lot of things that we can't support like that, but that's what I'm saying. Mostly it comes down to having this tailor, right? And having this tailor requires having an animal farm, having sheep. So Yeah, so the first thing that we really want to do is we want to get another farmer up in here. And in fact, you can request a family. So you can basically request any family type with your favor points. You'll get favor points every so often. I think maybe like once a year, I think you get more favor points. And you can see here, look at this. Here's a 7-person level 2 farming family that we can get for 51 points. Let's actually go ahead and do that because we are going to want that animal farm to get up and running as soon as possible. And also the animal farm that will produce like butter and cheese. And those are important ingredients down here for made products to help us sort of like keep our food situation like diverse, because that allows us to keep producing better types of meals. That's going to keep our ruling family happy, and that's what we want. We want to keep our ruling family happy. Now this is still really bothering me. I guess they're still working on the roofing in here, but they're out of straw, so hopefully soon, like when their resources run out, their capability to build this stuff stops, and then they reprioritize all this stuff over here. Let's go ahead and see. Oh, look at that, look at that. So see, Dyer. So remember how we looked at that guy down here, Dyer? They're actually asking to stay, and they're a farming family. So I basically have a rule of thumb where if a farming family wants to stay, I basically accept them 100% of the time, because like the only downside to a farming family is that you just need like a lot of land for them. But like as long as they're like pumping food into your economy, they're keeping your society running. And I wanted to mention this earlier too. One sort of like rule of thumb ish that I have, and this isn't like a hard and fast rule, this is just sort of me, is I try to keep it so my settlement population is currently 29, and I have 7 farmers set up. We just accepted this new family. We'll get them set up in a second. But I try to keep it at that. The settlement population shouldn't really be too much more than like about 5 times your farming family population, which actually isn't even quite true, because like, so this, if y'all remember, this actually used to be a 6-person family, but now it's a 7-person family. So this farm is still only set up for 6 people, right? We only have 6 by 6 areas of farming soil. So really, the rule of thumb should be that I don't want my population to go much higher than 5 times more than the number of 6 by 6 plus farming soil that I have set up and that are being worked by a farmer, right? So like 35, right? 6 times 5 is 35. No, 30. Shoot. Yeah. I'm bad at math. 30. So I wouldn't really want my settlement population to go much higher than 30 right now. But I mean, on like the good news is that like setting these guys up for like another plot is pretty easy, because they just have another person in there. So all we got to do is, I know this is a little bigger than 6 by 6. I'm just gonna go ahead and do it. Again, these are rules of thumb, not hard and fast rules. So this should be able to set up another like 5-ish population, and we just got another 4-person farming family. Let's go ahead and set them up down here. And this is why having these templates is nice, because like I just got this new farming family, so I can build him a house right here. I can give him a animal and crop farm. I already have a template set up for that. We're just going to go ahead and pop that down right there. We're going to assign this to the new farming family, the Dyers. Give them the house for free. We're going to give them the farmland for our regular 2010 tax ratio. And this is sort of what I was talking about earlier. So look at this. So we have a family of bakers that want to come hang out with us. Let's go ahead and decide later. So let's take a look at the bakery zone. Now, a bakery zone needs a cooking table. That's fine. We have plenty of cooking tables. But look at this. An oven requires 8 stone blocks. We don't have any stone blocks. And how do we get stone blocks? We get it from the masons. The masons get it from the miners. So really, in order to build this stuff for the bakers, we need to have a mining field and a masonry set up. And that's, like, why would we accept a baking family that that aren't going to produce anything at all until we have 2 other families like completely set up and ready to go? Further, That's the oven. I guess that's really the only, that would be the only bottleneck would be, yeah, it would be the stone blocks for that. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to reject this baking family because we just can't quite support them yet. It looks like we're completely out of, so this is interesting. It says the resources we were selling are out of stock, but we had already sold all of the stuff we were going to sell anyway. Let's just go ahead and ignore that just to get so if you remember in video 1, we were selling 350 straw. I guess it was still set to like sell, even though we were down to our limit. It's fine. It's just a little thing. So like I said, every time you build a farm, you need to come in and set, or rather, anytime you're building a farm with farming soil, which I did put a little bit in the template for this one, just because why not? You need to come set the soil management. Like I said, early in the game, I turn everything on except for wheat, barley, and rye, and that's because of the straw to grain like ratio of production they get. Oats, I turn on because it produces like a lot of straw, and straw is currently what we're using to build all our houses, so we may as well like keep the straw flowing. But for now that should be fine. Actually, I'm going to leave tree management on here because you can see there's a couple trees that they're going to plant. And keeping the trees in the animal pen is nice because the animals will like eat the fruits. And then there's like one other tree here, so like whatever. And then we're going to go to animal management. We're going to let's get 5 chickens, 5 cattle, and 5 sheep. And then go to the priorities. So we are going to do apples and pears because we're going to have trees, butters and cheese because we're going to have cheese and butter because we're going to have animals, and grain and rice because we have crops. We can leave all the priorities set for this farm. And that is, that's fine. It's going to take them a while to actually build all that stuff, but like they're basically set up and ready to go. Now we're waiting just a little. Oh, look at this. You can even see like we have a lot of people staying at our inn. Now the dyers, they are going to be, they're going to be staying at the inn until they build their own beds because they have nowhere else to sleep. But you can see we have some jewel crafters visiting. We have, it's a big family of jewel crafters. Look at them. Caravan. Oh, the caravans stay at the inn. That's right. Here's the dyers. We just accepted them. There's more jewel crafters. Wow, that's a really big jewel crafting family. Caravan. Dyer. Let's see. Oh, there's the bakers that we just didn't accept. So you could just sort of come in here and see like everybody who's here. That's a pretty big baking family too. And then there's more caravans. And that's interesting. So you could see here, one of our rain court people is sleeping in the inn, and that's probably because we only have enough beds in their house to sleep 6. And there's 7 of them now. So let's go ahead and build another bed in there for them. Yeah, so it's looking pretty good. Now, we are still waiting for this family. Okay, so they're coming in pretty soon. Let's go ahead and like crank the speed up here real quick, and we'll get this farming family in. Now, remember, I sort of went and I requested this family before another farming family just popped up. Like sort of, from the end, you're going to get like random families popping up. So here's our new farming family over here. Let's go ahead. I think we're just gonna basically mirror this. Actually, let's go ahead and exactly mirror this. Let's give them an animal and crop farm. We'll even mirror it like that, just for good old fun. Basic house. Actually, how big is that family? The Guernans. Now they're 2, 4, 6. They're a family size of 7. So let's give them a big house. Pop them right here. Yeah, that looks pretty good. Give them to the Guernans. House for free. We're going to do our 20/10 split for taxes over here. Ooh. Like so. We're going to come in here. We're going to adjust the trees, turn on the pears, animals. I'm actually not going to turn on sheep for these guys because the thing about sheep is they produce just so much wool that eventually like storing it will become it's like even with this one farm storing it's already going to be an annoying problem for us. And if I gave these guys sheep too, we just have double the wool. And like literally like the reason that there are all these chests in my template here for my warehouse is because wool is stored in chests, and chests do not store that much stuff. They only store, I guess 200 kilograms is like kind of a lot, but like let me tell you, that wool builds up and there's like there's just nothing you can do with it. It's just, you just get too much of it. Oh, take a look at this. This is what I was saying earlier when sometimes you just notice some trash piles. Actually, that's my trash pile. Belongs to Bridgerton. Probably has something to do with the fact that my laborers aren't organizing all my stuff yet, which is really annoying. They will get there. This happens to me every time I start a game when I move the warehouse like this. It's just part of the thing, just part of the how it goes. But anyway, this I've been recording for an hour, so I'm gonna go ahead and call that the episode. I think we've made some pretty good progress. When we started, we only had these 3 families set up. Now we have a pretty good area for our royals over here. We have 2 new farming families getting themselves set up down here, and we have the inn over here. Yeah, thanks everybody for watching. As before, go ahead and leave like a comment if you think I'm doing something wrong, or if you want to chat, or just to let me know that you're watching and that you hate my stupid voice. Any engagement is engagement. So if you want to like shitpost, go for it. Anyway, I'll be back for another video, hopefully sooner rather than later. All right. Thanks a lot, y'all. Thanks for watching.